Now, that's very simplistic, and I think there are probably physiological things, perhaps a break in the connection between the prefrontal lobe and the limbic system. And most experts will say we don't really know. But gradually we're finding out a little bit more.
Well, there are rogues in the animal kingdom.
There
no
are.
reason to suppose there aren't rogues
Right,
among
right.
people as well. I have trouble believing that everything can be blamed on someone else. I mean, I think this is a society that is always looking for someone to blame things on, and then ultimately we have to take responsibility for ourselves.
And all mothers, you know, we do our best. We do our very best. And we see all of our children are different. They're not necessarily, some of them are bad, but there are totally different personalities. I have 4 and a foster son. They're all different.
There's a book that just came out. I can't remember who the publisher is, but it's a doctor. I believe her name is Faye Sultan. You familiar with her?
No.
Well, she's all publishers are looking for someone else to be the new Patsy Cornwell, as
yeah,
you well know,
yeah.
because of the sales. And her thesis is, she's a forensic psychiatrist, I believe it is, that that there are no there are no bad people, that everyone is made to go wrong. Everyone who goes wrong is somehow made to go wrong. And I read the book, and I really couldn't subscribe to that based on my own experience with criminals.
I can't either.
And
I can't either.
I was happy to see that you also feel that there may, I think it's hard for mothers and for people related to someone like Ted Bundy to not to just, beat themselves bloody with self-blame.
Of course, and other people, I think because it frightens us that a child might turn out that way, are so quick to grab onto, well, he must have been abused. There must be some secret in the childhood. And I find that even in my current book, Bitter Harvest, people want me to be able to tell them exactly what went wrong with the person who was convicted of the crime, and I can't. I don't know.
I found that interesting that in a review I read by the Scottsdale reviewer Betty Webb in the paper just before you've come here to sign, that she mentioned the fact that the surviving child of the doctor, a woman, that's a very Medea-like story, isn't it?
That's all I thought of was Medea.
Yeah, you really have to. A woman who sets a fire and incinerates 2 of her children and tries to poison her husband, destroys her family. I guess my question is, why does she have access to her remaining child?
Well, I talked to Dr. Michael Farrar, her husband, who barely survived her recipes. And I said, does Lissa want to go see her mother? And he said, yes, it's very important to her. The kids, Deborah Green, a medical doctor and IQ of 165, was in many ways childlike. And it's so pathetic because her kids were really parenting her. And 2 of them are gone, but Lissa still feels some responsibility toward her mother. And of course, she's getting psychological help. And her therapist does feel that she's calmer when she can go down and see her mother. And she still is the adult. When her mother starts saying, it was your brother that poisoned your father, it wasn't me, Lissa knows that's not true. And she will just switch the conversation to something else. But if Deborah crosses the line where Michael and the therapist feel that it is no longer at all beneficial to Lissa, who's 12, almost 13, she won't go anymore.
So it's a voluntary. That wasn't clear to me.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's a remarkable book and truly horrifying. But then many of the stories, if not all of the stories, I guess, that you have written are horrifying.
None of my books are very jolly and calm.
But in order to write nonfiction that has this kind of force or drama, you really do have to tell a story, don't you?
I do. First of all, I have to find the right subject. Not the right hero, but say the anti-hero or heroine. And I'm always looking for somebody who is charismatic, intelligent, attractive, rich, successful, has love, or at least some of those things. Have the things that the rest of us think, if we had that, we'd be happy. But these people are insatiable. And I go through 300 or 400 cases to find the right subject. Then the book almost tells itself. and I'm going along and describing it so the reader can walk beside me and know what kind of flowers were blooming, what the air felt like, what they got to eat in local restaurants. And so they're seeing through my eyes and hearing with my ears. But then I have to decide, where do I jump in? Because the story's all there. I can't change it. It's the truth. But I can change the point at which the reader starts out. And that way I can give it a little suspense. And of course, usually there's a lot of suspense because these people act out so continually that just when you think nothing else can happen, they turn a corner and they do something else bizarre. So it's not a one-joke book or a one-incident book. It is a series of incidents that kind of build to a climax, but it's all happened.
It's a process of revelation, too.
It is.
But you're also shaping it by selection.
I'm not going to
for the
tell
reader.
in chapter 1 who did what to whom.
Right.
I'm going to say something. Hopefully the reader picking up the book in a bookstore will read 2 pages and think, I want to know what happens.
So it is like a mystery story in the sense that you have a narrative flow and you have building suspense and you do reach a climax, a solution, and I presume that it's helpful also to have something of a resolution afterward in the sense of what happened. You know, was the person executed? Is the person incarcerated?
And
whatever.
I always end the books about where are they now? And then that didn't really do it, so now I have a newsletter because my people
yes.
Continue to act out, continue to do things. So I now have about 10,000 people on my newsletter list, and each one is updating them on what Diane Downs is doing now, what Ted Bundy is doing, but they want to know, they still have questions about him and his ex-wife and his daughter. And this is one, I tried to answer all my letters, and I couldn't keep up. So this is one way I can answer these. People are curious 10, 15 years later.
That's amazing. It's like creating a family, isn't it?
It really is.
Of all these characters. And actually, the people you're writing about, I suppose that if you concentrated on fiction, these are the kinds of protagonists that you would go to great lengths to make up, wouldn't you? To make, I mean, they have to be fully fleshed, and they have to be contradictory, and they have to be interesting in order to sustain a fiction narrative.
Well, Possession, my only book of fiction, which is banned in Cincinnati because it's too graphic. And it came out, it was re-released by Pocket Books this last year, and I have a number of letters, mostly from little old ladies down south, who say, Anne, we are shocked that you would write about such sexual material. And I shouldn't even say this on the air, but I sent their money back to a couple of them. And then I thought, oh, come on, what it is, it's a composite serial killer that finally gave me a chance to take all of the things I'd learned about serial murder and put them in one character.
Sure. An icon, so to speak. So you're really you're using the same tools that a novelist, a fiction writer would use. You're using plot and character and setting.
Of course.
And certainly style, because to me that's always to me actually that's the most critical component of any book. I don't care what's being said if it's being told to me in a boring way.
Yeah.
I don't care how wonderful the plot might be or even the setting. But you also, where a fiction writer can make things up, you presumably have the burden of research and
Absolutely.
There's been a big controversy recently. I know when Lorenzo Carcaterra wrote Sleepers, there was a lot of controversy about the fact that while it was purported to have been based on his actual experiences, the truth is he made some of it up. So faction is becoming this kind of term for bridging.
Yeah.
But I gather that it's important to you not to do that.
No, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that. And of course, Capote now is post-mortem. People are going after him and saying, in cold blood, a lot of it is made up. And that was the book, that and Blood and Money were the books that really inspired me. But people do, such as we've said, such interesting things that I don't need to make anything up. If I do my research well enough, it's all there. And I'll have to admit, when I start each book, I think I will never find out enough. And when I end, I always have more than I can get into the book.